Hi, welcome to the podcast series of Ananta Montessori. I'm Rohit Kandkatla, the co-founder of Ananta Montessori and your host for the podcast. Here today, we have a very special guest, Sujatha Kumar, who is the director at Indian Montessori Centre and also my guru, who has welcomed me to the world of Montessori. So very excited to have you here, ma'am. In our generation, when we were growing up, formal education usually always started at first standard, or we call it first grade. But in 2020, India announced this national education policy, laying a great emphasis on the need for early childhood education, which they call the foundational stage, that particularly covers with focuses on children aged 3 to 6. So, what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I think that's a good thought and much awaited thought, very much needed also, because the reality is, having been in the Montessori field, the awareness is maybe higher in me, that in us, I should say, that the early childhood matters. And early childhood is the time when it influences a person lifelong. So, if I offer the right things at the right time, early enough, then you have a healthier human being, wholesome human being. In fact, with first 6 years of life are crucial for the child, any person, in fact. So, what happens here, what doesn't happen, everything has an impact. So, definitely the focus is now on the early childhood. So, yes, we are hoping work will happen.
There are various learning approaches towards at the early childhood for learning and development. Like there is Waldorf, there's Reggio Emilia, and there's also Montessori. Why and when should a parent pick the Montessori approach, according to you?
I think parents ought to research, find out about all the methods, and choose a school. In some ways, the children learn from all the methods, but do the parents have the patience to wait? Then please take the alternate approach. If I am waiting for my child to write CAT CAT and BAT BAT and bring learning from school, these methods may not help that. Are the children learning way beyond what they learn in the conventional school? But the parental expectation very often impacts the child's life in the Montessori. So it's good if parents research, listen, ask questions, and now the world is at your feet through the Google. So, lot of research, but a little intelligence research is what I would say.
But according to you, why Montessori?
Okay, I think I personally had a very rough early schooling, I should say. By the time I figured out what I have to do in school, I was started enjoying the company of the school, not the studies as much. And but the early childhood, I have memories of quite this thing, bitter memories, I think, which has impacted my learning. And when I saw the Montessori material, that's why when the principal showed me the material, I just connected to it. It made perfect sense to me. So perhaps that was my need. And so I got into the method and I realized this is okay. I will not say the way because there are other people
Of
also
course.
saying that their method is the method. But let me say why this is good for the children. Children are doers. If you look naturally, they don't sit still for a moment. And they learn by doing, they learn by observing. So these are the things when the Montessori leaves the gives the environment, everything is there for the child to choose. So again, there is a child has his choice. So that's where I think one of the things, the child needs to be active. So you have activities for the child, and they are not any activity as such. These materials help the child to learn. The child is learning new concepts. There is new development happening. So a lot of work is happening in the child. And I think it's a little unfair to ask me because I have traveled a long journey, more than 30 years. So what happens is by now my depth, the belief in the method is so much that I may not be able to do it justice. But one thing I will say, that if you see children, they are always busy. They like to touch, they like to handle things, and that is something that they get to do freely. At home, the child is behind the mother if she is doing the housework, or the maid, whoever is doing. So here, the child doesn't have to ask anyone. He can choose to, when I say he, it could be girl or a boy, but the child can choose to do whatever he or she feels like. So there is that no stoppage for every step. No, no, don't do this, don't touch that. Nothing. Everything is catered to the child. And whatever is there in the environment is helping in the child's learning. And it is not boring. There are such a variety of materials there. And it meets the child's need. Basically, the need to work, be hands on. So, shortly, I will say that.
Sure. So I think just extending a bit around that question. Now let's move more about your personal experiences. Uh, just individually as a Montessori educator or as a Montessori parent, what do you love about Montessori? What are the few things that you love the most?
There is no teaching. One line. The teacher is somebody you don't see in the Montessori. The true teacher is the material. The material is teaching the children. So I think the pain of my early childhood was that I couldn't figure out what the teacher was saying. I still remember the art activities we used to do. But here the children get to do, and there is no this thing interference. There is no. Let me say that there is activity, which is this thing, and as a parent, thankfully, I had a lot of patience. Enough patience to withstand the rest of the family and the society. And so the best part is, down 2 years down the line, I heard my family members telling somebody else, I don't know what they do, but they learn. So you send the child to Montessori, because 85 Montessori, 88 Montessori was not
Of
so well
course.
known the way it is known today.
Anything else that comes to your mind?
Uh, Basically, I think that is what it is. The child space, the child is learning through the material, and there is no pressure. There is a phrase that we often use is the joy of learning. We all have been through schools and this thing. People ask, what's wrong with me? I'm perfectly fine. Yes, we are perfectly fine. But there are, when I look at myself, there are blocks that I'll find. And one is learning. You come and do the course. I finished my degree. I don't want to do another course after that. Why? Because that joy of learning, that curiosity, that this thing is all gone because I was taught. Here, the child is curious to explore and ask questions, and there is so much. I mean, I don't know where to start because there is just too much there.
Sure. So now moving on to another one. What have been the surprises you've come across? Things that you remember, that some things which very pleasantly surprised you about the approach.
The immediate answer to this is okay. Approach. Maybe I can talk about my students, the children in the class.
Yes.
So I'm talking about my little ones, the 3 to 6 year olds. We say that the child get engrossed in the work. You can't really disturb that child who is involved in the work. So one day, just all the children were playing around, and one child was working with the material. And in their running, one child has kicked the material and it's flown off. And this child, suddenly he was reaching out for something, he couldn't find it on the mat. So he looks around, everything is strewn around. He did not even look up to see who did it. He just picked up the material, put it back, and resumed his work. Another story, if you are willing to
Many
listen.
stories. Yeah, sure. Please do.
Is we used to have this 15th August and 26th January time when we have the fly past, the pilots are practicing, and it was on the way, this thing. So these planes would come at with the high speed, and they were quite low because they were practicing for this thing. So These children would run out, and first in the beginning, the ignorant me tried to stop the children. One day I said, okay, let it go, let them go. Because you're tired of stopping around 28, 30 children from going out. So they were all went out of the classroom and they looked at the sky. In fact, there are two between the two buildings, only little portion of sky was seen. So these children looked, the planes flew past, and then they discovered, hey, the building is moving. So another child is looking and saying, where? And then the third one discovers it is not the building that is moving, it's the clouds that are moving. And this is happening among the children. And once this child said, the clouds are moving, the building is not moving, and the others were assured. Believe it or not, the children had left their work in the classroom. They came out, they watched, they finished, and they went back to their place and resumed as though there was no break. That shook me, I have to say. That was a big learning experience for me. Another one?
Sure. If you have any more, or we can
I have, but anyway.
maybe one more. Yeah,
One
sure.
more. So we say in the training that when the child starts anything new, when he is full of enthusiasm, especially it was in reference to writing, so you should not interfere. Let the child write any which way. Let him start. Don't interfere now. Wait for some time, and then if you want to intervene, do it. Enthusiastic, new broom. So it was my first year, first this thing. The child who had joined with me, so 3 years, who had joined at 2.5, now he had come to the stage of writing around 4.5, 5. So he brought his notebook showing me his writing, which from the lowest row it has gone up to the topmost row in the 4-line notebook. And I said, very lovingly, okay, will you write it between these lines? This child simply closed the notebook and put it back and did not pick it up for the next 2 or 3 months. So, but did he take it? Yes, he got back to writing and he voluntarily, I didn't ask him to. So there are some beautiful lessons, 101 lessons that I learned, maybe 1001.
As a parent who's interested to send their child to a Montessori environment, what should I be expecting my children to learn there?
Yes. Okay, one thing to start with, in a Montessori environment, it's a good idea to plan the 3 years of pre-primary, if I may say. So now with the NEP, perhaps it's a bonus that the child can stay till 7 years of age, nearly 7 years of age. So any Montessori program is incomplete if I take the child away after 1 year. Of course, the child will benefit, but the complete benefit is seen only after 3 years, because which will be much more than what happens in 1 year. What happens first year, people are cool. They'll say, oh, child is not writing, it's okay. But then by the time they turn 4, people get worried. But everything is happening in the background. Everything is happening inside. The developments are happening, the changes are happening. So, if you expect children, your child to come with a notebook full of written work or drawing or art, perhaps not as much, but there is lot of development happening inside. How can I see it? There are 2 ways, if I can say so. One is be in communication with your child. Listen to your child when he is speaking. That will tell you how the child is growing, more than what input we have given at home. And also request for observation in the school. That's the only way. Because the child works with the material and there is something happening inside which even I as a Montessorian cannot see it happening. I can only see the results. So you see the results more often in the classroom because there are things where the child can work with and show you the result. The child knows counting, suppose one example. So when he has the number rods, more likely to count rather than at home. But children do take. When children start writing, that's another thing. But that takes 2 solid years of as though the child is not working. The development is all happening inside. So yes, lot of patience, and I request the parents, you have questions, go and talk to the teachers about the child and not in front of the child, because parents understanding the method, what happens? They also start following some of the Montessori principles, which is beneficial for the child. And the child is free to work. Child gets influenced by the parents' this thing. I have seen when the child works, slows down the work or gets into mischief, I invite the parents for a talk, and I have often found there was some question in their mind. So talking to them, it would come out. And once that conversation is done with, the parents have their answers, the child is back at work. So there's a parents have a big influence. Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava is there for a reason. Though we are also, teachers are also, but we are next to. So if you have a doubt, it will influence the child's activity in, especially in the Montessori, because in a conventional classroom you have to do it or not do it, and then parents can reinforce it. Here the child has to be in the environment to learn, because it is a specific, materials are there shown in a specific manner, and also the specific time. I cannot just show anything anytime.
So children who go to a house of Montessori, what do they learn there? They're here for almost 3 years. So what, as a parent, what should I be expecting them to be learning there?
Okay, see, to look at Montessori seems like you are not doing anything, but it's a very structured program for the child. We don't force the child, but we have a plan, and we follow that plan. This the child who is 2.5 who comes into the Montessori, he is at a stage where he is learning to focus on things and staying focused, and they leading to concentration. So we look at majorly 4 areas, and then we have something called items of human culture. I'll talk about it later. It starts with the exercise of practical life, which in fact can be done at home. Anything and everything people are doing at home, whether it's washing the scooter, washing vessels, or anything for that matter, we can show it to the child. And what is happening with that? The child loves doing what the parents are doing. And now the movements, he's learning the movements, learning to control, which is the age for that 2.5 years of age. Learning to control the movements and getting into a state of concentration, because he's repeating the activity again and again. And this child can do for a long time. But he has to reach that point, and to reach that point, exercises of practical life, your everyday activities. When I create that material for the child and show the child how to, the child enjoys working and he repeats it. So that is one area, exercises of practical life, that also helps the child be independent. We have seen children helpless. I don't know how to tie my shoelace. This is an 8-year, 9-year-old child. Whereas we are helping a 3-year-old, 3.5-year-old to tie the shoelaces. So what is happening as a result of that? The child is doing things. And if you notice, these 2-year-olds are the ones, no, me do, I will do. So there is always
So
a
they're able to
constant
take
fight.
charge of some aspects of their life,
Yes.
which they can at that
And
certain
step
stage.
by step, because it's not going to stop there. This, again, exercise of practical life lasts 3 years. So the child may learn to cut with the knife, scissors, light the match, sewing, anything that you would like to do. So, but it is happening progressively. So the child is becoming independent more and more, and that nature of independence is growing stronger. I will do it, which is very much required in today's age of having only one child, because we all want to do the best for our children. Then we have something called sensorial. Basically, sensorial is about physical properties. Help the child understand colors, understand shapes in a scientific manner. We bumble through. But here the clarity is so much that the child gets it immediately. And what happens? Therefore, there is a clarity in the child's expression also. The child can express himself. It's common knowledge, a lot of people notice that Montessori children they are very clear in their communication. That is one of the reasons. So that's a sensorial material. The magic for me is what is behind. Obviously, it is for the physical property, but it helps the child through the thinking process, and we like to call it scientific thinking process. The child looks at things, observes, and then figures out how and what to do, and then does the activity. So what is happening? The child is not thoughtlessly. I still till today see adults doing things thoughtlessly. Ayo, I didn't know that something spilled, which to me it's obvious, perhaps because I have been in the movement field for so long. But then this child thinks through and then does it. Very rarely will you tell a Montessori child, why didn't you think? He has thought through and he has done it. So that is the magic for me. And obviously it is going to, there is a lot of things happening with the sensorial also. But basically it's helping him with the physical properties. People think Montessori is playing. We have language and arithmetic, the three R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. And it's so strong because in the beginning we start quite early the language program. But what happens? This child comes and sees a letter A and says ah, and this parent is scared if the parent is not educated, not as in college or something, or educated in the Montessori method, that the child is speaking about the phonetics. So people get worried. What is this child saying? But from the age of 3, this child is learning about letters. Is he writing reams? No. But he is working in the way he can, with the way nature has made. The child's hands are not ready. All psychologists know that the child's hands are not ready till 4.5 for writing. The pressure, the holding the pencil, and the act of writing. The child may scribble something freehand, that's fine, but that writing that letter. So what has Dr. Montessori done? This beautiful, I think lot of people know about the sandpaper letters. Letters cut out of sandpaper where the child can trace it, and these are fairly large ones, not tiny thing that we are writing. So the child's hands are getting ready. He is listening to sounds. So he is getting prepared for writing and reading independently. So what happens? This child learns through phonetics, and this child doesn't have to wait to learn the spelling. This child is not going to the parent or teacher, OSUM. If you see these letters, what do you read? Awesome. This child wanted to write awesome. He did not know AWESOM. So what this child did, he just wrote these 4 letters and I knew it was awesome. So things like that happen. What happens? Writing is like talking. It's you are putting down your thought. So the child is not blocked if he has learned through phonetic. Very systematic. If you look at it, you may say that the spelling is not right, but phonetically it is correct. But remember, the child is there for 3 years, so we do help him to move to spellings also. It's not that the child will be doing phonetics. But interestingly, one child till 3rd standard refused to listen to refused to spell the conventional way. He would insist on writing it phonetically. Thankfully, his teachers were very cooperative. That's why the magic came out that the child himself turned to spelling once he came to 3rd standard. Some readiness was awaited. So that apart, that is helping in writing and reading, but the grammar activities, the logical, which is like grammar, some of us are not very conversant with the logical, not the logic part, but the logical for the language, syntax and everything what we call. This child is being exposed. And let me say, this child can learn up to 7 languages. And this child can remember the languages if this child is exposed to and has an opportunity to speak till the age of 12. Then it is yours. The child otherwise may forget. So language is a vast field which people do not know about. And arithmetic, okay, we count 1 to 10, we start with that, we move to tens, hundreds, thousands and like that. And the best part for me in arithmetic is I had mugged up and learnt arithmetic. I understood. Here the child gets to experience what is addition, what is subtraction. Each of all the 4 operations this child understands now. So what is he doing? He is not doing arithmetic mechanically. He is putting his understanding and learning. Basically, you are sowing seeds in the child's mind. The sensorial has got many this thing for algebra, which I think 99% of us mugged up. A square plus a plus b whole square. Here the child works with the material. There is a connect that he has, and which helps him later on also. And the children do carry these memories much later. And we have something called items of human culture, botany, zoology, geography. We are giving it to the child's hands and senses. We say that we create activities and give. So the child is active, and say geography. My compound has different features, exploring that itself geography for the child. So starting like that and then taking to the earth and the maps and things like that. Zoology, how much can I create the exposure? Getting a dog into the school, having your own dog, having fish. So, like that, practical reality and exposure to different things. So, these form the crux.
Thank you so much for the very detailed explanation. I think that'll be very helpful to our audience. Now, let's try and break some myths about Montessori education to our audience. One of the common myth is that Montessori is very unstructured and kids do whatever they want. What do you think about that?
If you ask a Montessori teacher trainee, she will say it's too structured because there are rules, but the rules are for the adults in relation to the child. So I'm not stopping, I am not telling the child do this, do that, but it is for me so that I follow that structure and help the child as and when he needs. So definitely there is a structure, there is a plan. In fact, the Montessori teacher has a plan for the child. But if this child says no, I will stay back. But do I just ignore it, not show him the activity? Definitely not. Because as a responsibility, it's my responsibility as a Montessori teacher to be able to help the child to develop to the best of his ability. So what we do, we wait for an opportunity, perhaps stimulate the child. Sometimes it happens you show something that interests the child. Now this child comes back to the older activity. So there are so many incidents that happens. So there is nothing unstructured as such. But yes, when you look at it, the child has freedom. That is where I think people get this idea, but that freedom comes within limitation. So the child cannot do whatever he wants to do. The child wants to do something, he will take that, and that is responsible because of the previous helps we have given. So a Montessori child who has been in the Montessori environment for even 2 or 3 months, you will not find them this thing. Only in the first week I'll find the children pulling out things and all that. But after that, they realize, and the older ones are there. No, you will not do. I mean, they become the teachers. So that's how it happens, but there is a structure. I like to say that.
Another common myth is that Montessori does not teach things like reading, maths, or other core subjects.
That I spoke so much about it. So there it is a part of, because academics, she talks about education as aid to life. Dr. Montessori spoke about it. So life also needs a child going who's 6 years old to get into classroom and write and read and do arithmetic. In fact, you ask any parent whose child has been through Montessori, they will tell this child was over-equipped for the first standard. In some ways, yes, but the beauty of it is the child will also adapt in the first standard to the level where they are doing. So it goes, definitely arithmetic and language are part of the child's work.
Another myth, Montessori is just playing with toys.
Interestingly, when Dr. Montessori started this work, and to date also, whenever we experiment, we have the materials, we have the toys, everything displayed. Children will again and again choose the material because the toys, one is there, if there is a challenge, they get over the challenge and it doesn't have any meaning for them. And or sometimes the toys, they don't know what to do with it. But here they want to do practical work because they have seen their parents, and nature has geared them to be like human beings. That means, who is my role model of human being is the parents and the adult teacher in the school. So what I want to do what they are doing. So the child gets used to purposeful work. So we have found, we have tried, experimentation is good. I have experimented, I have added toys, and children have refused. We use toys very early in the first week of the child's life in a Montessori. After that, it goes out. But even that, once I start the material, it doesn't hold the child's interest. So these are not toys, these are specially prepared means of development. I mean, technical name I am giving you so you understand the importance of it. It is prepared specially to help child's development. These are not toys. And if people get worried, too serious, this sounds too serious, it is helping the child build himself up for life. He will not be able to do this development, say at 8 years of age or 12 years of age. Forget about 20 and 25 and all. This is the time, all the development to happen.
Okay. Another myth is that Montessori educators don't teach, so that means they don't do much.
Ideally, a good Montessori adult will not do much except for writing observation and making sure that the materials are in place and creating material if needed. So there are materials that we prepare and add to the environment. So other than that, truly there should not be. So the problem is when a child makes a mistake, the first reaction of the adult is correct. That's the toughest thing to get out of for a Montessori trained person. So you see a child making a mistake, first thing you do is, no, not like this. And we interfere. We train our students not to interfere. I tell them, sit and watch that child. Yesterday only one block went missing and she has to build a tower with that. She could not figure out what block, but she did not proceed from that space where that block was supposed to be. She kept on trying till by accident she found that block that had rolled off. She brought it back and then she continued. How much time? 5 minutes she must have been dismantling, arranging, try this one, try that one, nothing worked. Then she found that. So that's the beauty of it. If you sit and watch, you will see how the child can find his own answers most of the time. So yes, we have been trained not to interfere. Instead, I don't let the child keep making that mistake. I'll observe. Like I said, very often they correct themselves. If they don't correct themselves, I observe to see where the lack is. I don't correct the child then and there, but I will look at where the mistake lies and correct that area. And of course, I have to say that we take time with this. So again, slipping back and then getting back onto this is a big work. This is the work that we do. And observation is a constant thing. Writing the observation in the beginning till it becomes part of us, so that we observe the children naturally.
And also, as you mentioned, kind of really analyzing the observations and then taking it to the parents also and sharing that to them.
Yes,
it becomes
because
a key
parents,
part of the educator's
parents
job.
need to know, I am sending my child, so what is the child doing?
True.
But are the parents able to appreciate that this child is the one who could not speak is speaking? Maybe this is appreciated more. This child can sit still for some time and do work. Very often you will hear from parents, ma'am, I suddenly realized he can sit for 5 minutes to finish that work. Earlier he couldn't sit at all. So these are the fine things that we need to notice. Sure. Okay, most of us are not trained into it, we are not educated. So these reports help. And one thing I would like to say is observation always helps, because when I see my child doing something, I know how things are changing with him. So that is another thing. But yes, the observation is a major, even before talking to the parents. Observation is going to be the help for the Montessori adult, Montessori directress. Because she needs to know how to help this child. What help does he need? Does he need the help or not? Everything. I call observation as a tool. So it is not just observation that you write and finish it off. You go through it, you study it, you understand. And you also realize with observation that how long has something been going on. Time passes, we don't realize it.
Sure.
We think it's 1 week, suddenly you realize nearly 1 month has gone past. So
Sure.
it is a major tool which the teacher has to sit in one place, which many people misunderstand. I have had administrators in the schools getting upset about it, that the teacher should be on their feet in a conventional classroom because we are going against the child nature. Here we are helping the child's nature, we are going along with it. So the teacher need not be on the rounds.
Yeah. Another myth is that Montessori approach does not allow group work or any socialization.
They are free to talk. Only condition being the one they are talking to is not working and you can't speak loudly. There is we speak softly in the classrooms. Why? Just because there needs to be a control. Do I stop? When somebody is joyous, volume naturally goes up.
Sure.
So there is, that happens, something happens, some children are enjoying something, so there is volume going up. But in an everyday thing, we try to keep our volume down. But you will not see in any other working class where children are sitting and talking, where the rest of the others are doing their activities. There are a lot of activities that are group activities. We conduct activities where children are part of it. They are learning to take turns, in fact. So, what happens? Everybody is heard. It's not that one person is talking. Even the teacher herself has a rule to follow. So, there are many opportunities for the children to socialize. Perhaps because children work on their own. Most of the activities are the children working on their own. People think that they are isolated. No, nothing stops a child from getting up from his mat, talking to his buddy, and coming back and doing his work, if the needs be. This is not directed by the adult. I am not saying lunch time, break time, this time, that time, talk time, whatever time. No, this, when the child needs, he socializes. And obviously there is a time when all the children are together, but not as obviously as in the conventional classroom. So there is lot of socializing happening. I think the myths, when you are asking these questions, these myths are generated by people who have not observed or they do not know Montessori. So, because if you have seen a Montessori environment, if you have been in that, it's so beautiful. There is a hum. The class is never deadly silent. Children are talking.
Yes.
They need something, they will talk. They come and tell us stories. Something happened on the way, the van driver uncle shouted at somebody or anything and everything. So there are stories going on. There is sharing with us, these children don't hesitate to approach adult. One thing about Montessori children, they mingle with all age groups. When I see these young adults talking to the oldies and also being able to play with that 1 or 2 year old, I inevitably ask, where did this child, sometimes of strangers also, where did this child study? So very often it comes as a Montessori, because I see most of the children are uncomfortable. They may speak to younger children, but speaking to older people is quite tough.
Okay, the last myth now is that Montessori has everything already decided, which leaves very less opportunity for creative expression and creative experiences for the children.
Are you ready to listen to a little lecture?
Yeah, sure.
We need to understand that this child, between birth and 6, this child did not know the world at all when he came into this world. The baby was born. Step by step, the child has understood this world. And how well has he understood depends on what kind of exposure, what kind of reality you have let for the child. If you want, that stories also, when we say that reality based, many people don't like it. They say fairy tales, we loved it. Yes, but is it helpful? Reality based, why? Because this child needs to learn the reality. Once he knows the reality, then he can apply it in the creativity. In fact, 6 to 12 is that child who is creative. How can he create? If you look at it, even without me saying anything, you create an imaginary creature and try to describe that creature to me. It will be based on what you know. If a person has been in the Sahara and not seen the snow, his creativity will not include snow unless he has gone and seen it. So that is the reality. The birth to 6 year old is still exploring. I think I should say birth to 5, because by the time they come to 5 years of age, slowly the creativity is starting. This is the time I am equipping the child, cutting, pasting, if you are looking at that kind of thing, stories and learning about colors, shapes, and sizes. He is now going to use that in his creativity, learning the language. One child refused to write in the first standard. He was writing very well in the Montessori. I said, "Why? What were you teaching him?" So the teacher has written 4 sentences on the board, and she expects this child to copy. This is a child who writes about things. He refused. So this is the kind of thing that happens. This child is equipped for creativity. Only thing is, do I give that space for creativity? But that equipment comes from knowing the world. If I don't know the world, I cannot be creative in a way that is constructive also, which is
Sure.
useful also.
So, because our primary audience are parents, young parents, interested potentially in Montessori, uh, some tips that you can share with them that they can potentially do at home to build a Montessori environment at home?
Okay, Montessori environment is a long this thing, but Montessori has lot of psychology that I like to share with parents that can be done. Yeah, it needs a little deeper understanding. What I'm giving here is bare bones,
Of
and
course, yeah.
people may say, "Oh, that can't be done." You have to study a little more and see how it could be done. One is the independence. To help the child be independent, what I need to show how to. Never ever tell the child. How many times I have told you, you are not. He is not meant for that. You show him once and he will do it. Do what you want your child to do. So if you don't want the child to be on mobile, and please no mobile till 6 years of age at all. If you don't want him, do not be on the mobile in front of the child. Because whatever the parents do, it is not jid, it's not I want to do it, but it is nature has created him like that. So that's another strong point, that yes, you have to work. So you have your office space, you use your mobile and laptop there, and don't you bring it to your dining table or any other place. What is happening? The child is understanding, okay, daddy is going. So now this child is happy with the toy computer sitting wherever. I am also in office. So that is this thing. The independence, I want to get back to it. How do I help the child be independent? Show the child, follow it with freedom. The child will not be able to do correctly the first time you show him. Remember how we started, if I cook, how I started making roti, if I sweep or mop, how my sweeping, mopping was. The maid would have laughed at me. But I learned by making mistakes. So this child is on a learning journey. Let the child do. But once you show him, do not intervene. Give that freedom. And choices. I think it's very important to give choices to the children. It could be dresses, it could be shoes, it could be what would you like to have today. Do I have to listen to child every time? No, I mean suddenly at the dining table the child can't say that I don't want rice, I want chapati. But before you start cooking, can I ask the child, shall we have would you like to have chapati or rice today? And maybe not every day, on specific days. So this child knows that when it is coming, but more important, he is making a choice. I don't know if we realize it or not. Many of us cannot make choices. If we make choices, we can't stick to it. When we start something, we can't complete because something called will is missing. This will is developed from to when the child learns to say no. That no becomes a magic word, applies everywhere for the child. What is he doing? He is realizing I have some power. Now this has to extend. So give choices to the children. Yes, if you want to limit, you can't wear a pajama to school. So, but you can wear any of these three dresses. Montessori, we don't have uniforms because this is another opportunity, and he gets the texture, he gets to see the colors and different designs of dresses. Uniform, everything is lost. So, this is the choice making. Wherever, whenever you can give the child a choice, and also equip the child for that choice. So maybe start with 2 dresses, then go to 6 dresses. It will be easier for the child. Sure. And the freedom, again, you have to equip by showing the child how to and letting him go. In fact, I realized that even with the teenage child, I need to do this. Even with my, okay, in India we like to have our children close to us, but even the little later also, equip the child and let go. I have to go with my daughter wherever she goes by bus. The mother is going. I said, why? She is a teenager, I think 14, 15-year-old. She says she has to go by bus. It's not a safe place. I said, we all traveled. Only thing is, does she know what she needs to do? How, which point to which point? What is the process? And if something unpleasant happens, what can she do? Equip her and send. I can't be with the child all the time. So this applies lifelong. So for the parents, I think these few things are very, very important.
Thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts today and being here for our first podcast.
My pleasure, and I'm so happy to be here. My first batch, and you're one of the students who are starting the House of Children. So, yeah, it makes me proud and be happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Okay, so this was our first podcast. Stay tuned for many more podcasts from Anta Montessori, where we'll bring in different speakers talking about various aspects of young children that could be of value to young parents who are working with their kids. Thank you.